Are you spiritual, or are you just dissociating from the body? That's a powerful question, and one that I have had to ask myself on numerous occasions in my earlier life, and still do. One of the defining features, in fact, to me, the defining feature of Western culture and Western society is that we think a lot. We make a lot of use of our big frontal lobes up here in our prefrontal cortex. We use objectivity. We are an object-orientated culture, and we seek to pursue certain objects and avoid certain other objects. We put things in boxes. We have concepts. We have philosophies. We have ways of viewing what's going on around us and interpreting it. And this is all very well and cool, and there's nothing wrong with it. But it's important to also understand and reflect that in many ways this heavy reliance on our frontal lobes comes because we have dissociated from the body. Or in the terms of Reichian character structure, we are of the leaving type. And what that means is that, it points back to our very early infancy, and perhaps even in the womb, our nervous system registered a sense of unsafety, and we were simply directed to take our attention, our awareness out of the body and up into our developing frontal lobes. And once that safety strategy has become activated, then it tends to continue throughout our life. Every time our nervous system, operating below the level of our conscious awareness, registers a slight sense of unsafety, before we know it, we're back up here thinking again. We are the leaving type. And over time, as we reach adolescence and teenage years and become an adult, so all of this leaving, so all of this time spent thinking creates a mindset which, like all mindsets, seeks to perpetuate itself. It acts as though it is an autonomous entity. So this heavily object-orientated, objective mindset that we've got from our frontal lobes starts to push down on the body, keeping repressed feelings repressed, keeping our sense of the body at bay. And that pushing down over time becomes armoured in our body, in our muscle system, develop holding patterns, develop areas of the muscle system where awareness has literally dropped out and the muscles have become unresponsive, they've lost their toning. And so in the morning, when we wake up, our body, with all its tension, tends to boot our mind back up into this heavily object-orientated world. And then when we look at spirituality, a lot of the time we're going to see a similar thing. We're finding different abstract worlds that we can occupy. Maybe they come more from the East, chakras, different worlds, different layers of energy, different theories about where humankind is going, different souls, different origins, star systems, all of this kind of stuff. And it can all be fascinating and exciting, and like the more day-to-day aspects of Western civilization, like our capacity to do advanced mathematics, to astronomy, live in abstract worlds, create technology, it's all potentially useful, but it's also valuable to reflect at some point and to introspect on to what degree is the amount of time that I'm spending in abstract worlds simply the manifestation of a very basic safety strategy. We simply feel safer when we're not fully feeling our body and are much more engaged with thought processes up here. So if you're watching this video and you're engaged in a lot of spiritual practice, then it's good to spend some time, I think, reflecting upon to what degree might that be a safety strategy that was activated very long ago in my life and is still running now. And am I interested to start to come back from that and to re-inhabit my body more, to bring what I've learned from these upper realms back into my body, to embody it. I remember for myself about 25 years ago being very involved in one spiritual system and being really intrigued by it and learning a lot about it for several years. And one of the things, they have these kind of aphorisms, little proverbs, and one of them was to do with it ascends when it ascends from earth up into the heavens to receive the qualities of the heavens or something like this, and then it returns back to earth. And looking back now, working as a therapist, it seems to me like this little metaphor or this little saying was like a metaphor for this journey out of the body into a spiritual realm and learning all this stuff, and then at some point it's time to come back. It's time to come back, to open up the throat, open up the shoulder muscles, allow the awareness to come back down into the body. so we can really inhabit our body and really embody our spirituality. And my personal experience was that, when I started to give up spiritual belief systems and spiritual practices, it was kind of hard on my ego. Underneath it all, I had quite a dysfunctional social ego, low self-esteem, shyness, feeling scared to approach other people, preferring to be in my own mind world. And what I'd kind of done was built up like a kind of spiritual ego up here, knowing about all of this spiritual stuff, being able to be some kind of spiritual guide. And that kind of spiritual ego covered over my dysfunctional social ego. And I didn't have to feel that low self-esteem. I didn't have to feel unworthy. I didn't have to feel like I was unattractive and could not approach people I was attracted to. Because I had my spiritual thing that I was doing, and that was like a compensation. But over time, I can recognize that for me, that was a good journey to come out of this kind of artificial sense of high self-esteem and to face myself on a simple physical social level as just a human being. And what I also found was interesting was that letting go of this whole spiritual abstract world, in a sense, did not mean that I had to give up spirituality, because there is a spirituality in the body. It's not to do with concepts and ideas or thinking practices. It's more a sensory journey as you expand your sense of the body. As I began to feel more, as I began to really feel my back, and my lower back in particular, but I noticed it was kind of like a gateway, a doorway into a new kind of timeless like realm or something like this. And I feel like now I'm just about getting a foot slightly through that doorway when I practice meditation, and that meditation is simply to sit down and put my attention on the body. And of course, to get through that doorway or to get into that doorway, I had to, in a sense, face all the stuff that I had repressed in my journey of dissociation and leaving, which made this kind of inner journey more like, one of those hero's journeys that you read about as a kid, facing all sorts of hideous challenges and terrors and having to kind of find a way through. So to sum up, I wanted to make this video because, there's no hard statements I can make about, technology is wrong because it's from the mind, spirituality is wrong because it's from the mind, abstraction is wrong because it's from the mind. I don't think that's viable, but I do think it is good to look. It's good to introspect and say, hey, how much of my mental activity is actually just a safety strategy but was activated much, much earlier in my life? And am I interested to start to come back down and back in? Okay, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it's been useful for you, and do feel free to check out my website, where there are online courses and personality quiz and books and all sorts of exciting stuff about everything in this field. Thank you once again for tuning in, and I hope to see you again soon.